Hi. Um, I'm going on a spontaneous rant right now because I've been taking in some knowledge and inspiration, and I want to um, I'm contemplating a certain kind of knowledge, mainly knowledge that has to do with what people call reality, creating reality, and especially materials by Vadim Zeland. Um, and there's a lot of materials read from his book, and he calls his theory reality transurfing, and it's good material. It has a lot of value in my eyes, and I've been taking it in and thinking about it and experiencing the practice that he talks about. And this is just a spontaneous way for me to verbally externalize what I'm experiencing and what I'm thinking while experimenting with his ideas and his practices, and especially a kind of tricky like there are certain points where I think people can go lost in this kind of teaching and in this kind of endeavor to create reality. And I think, first of all, what I wanted to talk about is how to not go lost so much and what I experienced with myself while trying out for size what he's talking about. And where I find the tricky points are the places where one can get not only stuck but really entangled and finding ourselves in trouble because we're trying to implement this kind of theory or tools that, well, the tricky point for me especially is kind of getting well, I think a lot. First of all, you have to know the materials of Vadim Zeland if you want to somehow understand what I'm talking about. So I don't recommend trying to listening to me first, but rather to learn by some kind of to some kind of depth his materials and get an understanding about them, and only then to see what I have to say about it. Wait a minute. Yeah, so I think the problem with someone trying to implement what he's saying is the places where we might get split from our relations to ourselves, to our own experience, and to reality. So I'm talking about danger of getting split. Why danger and why getting split? Because it's quite clear that Vadim Zeland's teaching is about being happy. It's also quite clear that he did a good job talking about what most reality creation gurus or teachers talk about. It never mention most of them. He does a good job at including some distinctions in his teachings that are really important and make it a much more well-rounded teaching, much more balanced, because he does refer to the subject of creating balance, about the law of attraction, or whatever you call it, law is not the only law around. Okay, so it's not quite that simple that whatever we think about, we get. Okay, it's not quite that simple, but rather it is quite complicated, and nevertheless very much possible, and even can seem magical in a way. So there is this kind of so-called magic that we can really influence. We can't really create reality, but we can very much influence it. And we can influence it not only by our thoughts, but I would say, and this is my distinction inside all this jumbo of reality transurfing or creating reality or whatever, that we get what we are. So we so-called influence our reality by our being. But how the way we are and what we are, that is what creates our reality, not our thoughts, not at all. And I think that is eventually what Zeland is talking about, because he does refer to all the complexities and all the facets that need to be considered when you try to practice this. So I would say that, and I'll refer to the split thing in a moment, but what I would say is that yes, there is a kind of influence on reality, but it works both ways. And the important or the significant thing about this kind of teaching is to encourage ourselves to take more responsibility about this mutual influence that we have on reality and reality has on us. And understand that if we take responsibility of in a very specific way, we will take responsibility in a wise way. if we take responsibility of our state of being, and if we concentrate more on how we are inside life, eventually this will have an influence on the way that our life is set. So it's about wisdom. It's about seeing the mutual dance that our outward conditions in life um, and our inner state and our inner state of being, way of being, this is a mutual dance. And then seeing how we can emphasize in our inner work the more on the inward way of being of ourselves and less emphasize the outward conditions as an influencer on us. And if we do that switch, if we go through a process, and it is a process and it can take years of inner work to put more emphasis on how am I, who am I, how am I in the world, how do I relate, how do I respond to the outside conditions. What is going on here? What is going on in the body? And what is going on in the thinking processes and the reactions? What is going on in me? If we turn to ourselves more and more, we will, and just let go from the outside to a big extent, and stop being so influenced by what's going on outside of us, and start and continue taking responsibility more for what is going on inside of us. Eventually, this kind of work will bring us also a more favorable reality to live in. Okay? So I think this kind of attitude is very beneficial and very true. So I think the headline of Create Your Own Reality is a bit out there. I think it puts more stress on people, and it also has a kind of distortion in it. And it's not so balanced, and I think the better way to say it, I think in the Kabbalah, Jewish Kabbalah teaching, which is mystical, the mystical side of the Jewish religion, they say it best: to influence reality, not to create it, but to influence, and also you can say co-create. Because the human being is not built psychologically, most of us are not built psychologically to be totally secluded and think of ourselves as totally alone in reality and just being king of my reality and the creator. And this can take really a distorted um, directions psychologically in people. if we start to try and be that and think like that, we are built psychologically again as human beings to be in relation, to be in interaction. So I think it's more natural for us to think about, okay, I'm taking responsibility in my life and I stand alone, but I'm influencing reality. I'm not creating it. Because if I'm creating it, I'm in a vacuum, total psychological and existential vacuum. And we don't want to feel divorced of our surroundings. And we want to feel connected. I know I'm talking a bit like I'm jumping from one line of thought to another in a way, not very radically, but I hope you're getting the gist of what I'm saying. I'm trying to be logical in the way that I construct my thinking, but it's a bit hard because I'm contemplating it from different angles as I speak. So I think to sum this up, I just want to add another thing that I think we as human beings, being very, we have a special level of consciousness in relation to other beings on earth. So we can somehow play with or control our thoughts to a certain degree, some of us more than others. So therefore we can influence reality quite a bit, but also we must also, I think, always remember that not only do we influence reality, but reality re-influences us. And if anyone is seeing this video or has any chance of knowing what is talked about here, that means that their reality or their life path brought them here. Okay? So you can't say it's not accurate, in my opinion or eyes, at this moment to say that we just create reality from scratch. Okay, only if you see ourselves, if we see ourselves as pure consciousness, which most of us don't see ourselves that way. If you talk about a human being inside a human life, I would say it's a two-way motion. Reality is influencing us, and then we are influencing reality. Some of us have the luck to get to a point in life or to a place in life when we are lucky enough to find out the extent of our freedom inside reality through this kind of teaching, like Vadim Zeland, for instance. Some of us have the luck to, and again, I'm talking about ourselves as human beings. Sometimes we have the lucky enough to learn about the extent of authority we can take inside our lives. But you have to be quite lucky for that in the first place. And actually, if you are lucky enough to learn how much responsibility you can take in your life, you can say reality made you to be that way. Okay, so it's a two-way street. Reality is creating us, and then we can influence reality, and then again reality is influencing us again positively if we created um, the good or the wanted conditions for ourselves. Again, those conditions will re-influence us. So this is where I'm talking about a kind of split. And I'm talking about a specific aspect of this kind of teaching. And I was happy today to see that Zeland is relating to this tricky aspect, but I want to emphasize it because what I saw when I listened to some of his materials was that he was talking about, well, how do you create reality? You have to understand that reality is a mirror and it's a perfect mirror. And whatever you think about, the mirror will reflect to you. Okay? And then, if you want to be the influencer of your reality, you can't all the time react to the mirror and what you see in it. Meaning, and it's a pretty complex idea, but humor me. Um, well, the mirror reflects life is the mirror, and it reflects whatever your motion is. So, and he's talking about the mental motion. So, I won't go into all of the explanations. He does explain it very beautifully, but if you do unsatisfied motion, the mirror will reflect yes, the only way that this mirror is different from a regular mirror is that life has a delay in reflection. So whatever I talked about yesterday or the day before or a week ago or even a year ago or a few years ago would would eventually be seen as a reflection from life, or mainly what I was thinking about, and the way, especially the way and my energy, my way of being will reflect back to me. So generally, what he's saying is that if you're usually uncontented and looking for the negative in people and in life in general, and you don't trust life to be nice to you, and it's all okay. It's all me what I'm describing. Believe me. But if this is if you're a pessimist by nature, life will bring you the picture or conditions that reflect that. If you are thinking in terms of being controlled or being restricted in life, and you don't believe, you generally see that you don't believe, and again, it's okay, okay, it's me. You don't believe that you're free to do whatever you want, and you probably have good reason to think like that. You probably, like me, inherited this kind of thinking from your parents or your environment or your society. But if you're like that, probably this will be reflected in some way or in many ways by reality to you. And what he's saying is actually the truth is everything is possible. Everything is possible. It just depends on what you are believing, and reality will reflect those beliefs to you. And then he implies that, like on a day-to-day basis, you should just not consider what you see around you at all. And then just keep in your mind's eye and also in your feelings and the way that you are carrying yourself, and just in your imagination, let your imagination impress you with the positive outcomes you want to live in. In that way, you will be good-hearted and have a good state about you. And this kind of thinking, and also he says the specific things you are thinking about, even that are positive, that are wanted, will have to be reflected to you eventually along the line, if you stick to it. Okay, that sounds wonderful, and I tend to agree. I tend to agree because I saw people around me that kept thinking in very negative terms and got very negative conditions in their lives, sickness and health problems and so on. And also I saw it in me, in my life. So I tend to agree. But that kind of recommendation can take us to a very problematic places because wait, I have to bring water. I'm back. So as I said, I was seeing a bit of a few problems, or a kind of a problem with this. When you actually go into trying to practice it, and I think the right way to practice it is to have a few capabilities, to develop capabilities that go beyond just trying to influence reality or to create reality. Because if all you're trying to do and all you know how to do is that, like to overlay your preferred image onto what's going on around you, I think it's not natural for most people, and I think it will create a kind of split, as I said, between the person and himself, and between the person and his surroundings, their surroundings. And I think it's problematic, and it's not what we're aiming for anyway. At least I know it's not what I'm aiming for. Because as I said, human beings were not built to feel divorced from ourselves, from what we're feeling, what we're thinking, to be not connected. I think the direction of um, taking ourselves back from what's going on in our lives, and especially what's going on inside of ourselves. It's not so important that we'll be influenced and totally from what's occurring outside of us. All of us have learned to concentrate sometimes, to not listen to outer influences. If a person is listening to all outer influence and taking them in and believing in them, this person is probably very unhappy and miserable, because this person is probably not living their own life convictions and just what they want to do, and just listening to anyone, and they're probably also very confused. So I don't mean to take in anything you hear, I don't mean to take in anything you see, and it's good to know, to have this capability to totally be inside a situation, but not influenced in it. But at the same time, we have to have other capabilities, so we have a good foundation of really strong and healthy connection to ourselves. So this foundation of being able to listen to ourselves, be with ourselves. What I mean especially is accept radically whatever you're feeling. Allow a strong foundation of allowing ourselves, whatever we feel, whatever we sense, whatever's going on inside our minds, even if we don't have a healthy foundation of that, we can very fast, by trying to implement this kind of teaching of overlaying some kind of positive outcome on the outside reality and what we see around us, and just keeping our thoughts on that, we can push down a lot of our emotional content, and we might get into a lot of trouble, sorry. Because as humans, we're multifaceted beings. And therefore, our evolution, spiritual or development or evolution, whatever you call it, is multifaceted. It's not one-sided, and it's not enough to have one capability or have one practice down to really develop in a healthy and balanced way. This is the point I'm trying to take. It's to make, and it's really it's challenging to make this point because it's so multifaceted. So eventually, when I was listening to chapter of Vadim Zeland's book on YouTube today, and I'm sorry I'm not, wait a minute, I'll check who's reading it because it's really important to give credit. Yeah, Brian Scott. Brian Scott is the person who is very generously reading Vadim Zeland's book and putting a lot of energy into it in YouTube. So when listening, I was eventually happy to see that he does relate to the point that I'm trying to make here, which is different moments in the day, in your day, in life, demand different strategies, different ways of relating. I don't think he doesn't say it that way. I'm saying it in my way, and I'll mention where he comes in. I don't think that person can all the time keep himself in objection to what they see around them and just overlaying and overlaying and overlaying their own image that they want reality to be, even if it's only if this doesn't create any kind of split or tension inside you, inside your body, or inside your being, or inside anything. But for me, doing this all the time, it creates a kind of tension and even a feeling that I'm divorced from my own self and from my own experience. And what I find is better for me to do is just when I'm flowing in life, when I'm doing what I'm doing, when I am where I am, especially when I'm very active and especially when I'm with other people and interacting with people. I find it's better for me to mostly be present, be very present, whatever that means for me, and be in my body, be embodied. And being embodied means that nothing, that all is welcome, all my experience is welcome, including any reactions I have to my experience or my surrounding, even if it's so-called negative or whatever. You have to know how to be the space for yourself, your own experience, hold the space, compassionate space, accepting space. Because why? Why is that better on a flow-based why is that better in my eyes, rather than all the time trying to think about something else, think about something else, think about what I want, think about what I want? No, I don't feel it's very healthy. Why? Because one reason is that if I'm trying to make an effort to think about something else, it's already an effort, which means my being is not rested, and my being is stressed in a way. I'm trying to get away from something, and if I'm trying to get away from something, so reality, if reality is a mirror, and it's a mirror to my state of being, it's not a mirror to what I think of, it's a mirror to who I am. So reality will keep throwing at me things that I want to get away from. So because it understands that, okay, you like being stressed, you like trying to get away from something. So let me give you more things that you would like to get away from. Let me give you even simpler. Let me give you the feeling of trying to get away from something. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. Let me give you, you like to be in effort. You like feeling disconnected and divorced from the reality that you're in. So let me give you that feeling. And I'm not trying to frighten anyone, but my experience is the more that it's really simple, the more that I try to somehow manipulate my inner experience and make an effort to be different than what I am, I'm more likely to have more of this dynamics in my life, that I have to be different, that I have to be different, that I have to think differently. I'm taking it from another angle now, but the same idea. Eventually, we want to enjoy life, okay? The goal is eventually for this kind of teaching of whatever, creating reality or however you'd call it. The focus, the aim is to enjoy life, to be happy. And I think Zeland, he implies this quite clearly all along his teaching, that being happy is about being at peace and being relaxed and being comfortable inside your own skin and your own reality. It's not about the eccentric feelings like, wow, I'm so happy. Like, it's not about enthusiasm nonstop. It's more about just being comfortable and feeling, yeah, I feel good. I feel it's okay. It's quite nice. And most of the time, he talks about that the heart sings when we are in a situation that is really right for us. And I think most of the time, the song of the heart is not a very dramatic, melodramatic opera of extreme bliss. I think most of the time, the heart's song is more happy-go-lucky, relaxed song, like a happy child, you know, like giggly and fun, and that's it. And that's what we want out of our lives mostly. We can't carry in our body extreme ecstasy for long. Okay, we want something that is can be maintained for most of our day-to-day life. Just to say, I'm happy, I'm content, I'm comfortable, and that is something that Zealand has brought home for me and really, really cleared up for me, and I really am grateful for it, for this distinction, and I agree, and it's not about telling ourselves that we're content. No, it's about really being content and really, really noticing when something is really to our heart's content. Okay, maybe we don't have that thing that we thought we were supposed to have, but our heart is content. Okay, right now I'm sitting here, maybe you're hearing the birds in the background. And whenever I sit in my house, my home, my flat, and I hear the birds, it's truly to my heart content. My heart sings, okay? So we want to be content and happy and in a relaxed way. For that, my observation is first first thing that you have to create, that is recommended for you to learn how to create, the first reality that you want to birth into your life, is to learn how to be relaxed and to learn radical acceptance of what is, to be with the reality that is in front of you, that is around you, that is right now with you. That's easier said than done. Okay, this in itself takes a few years, if not many years, to learn, but you can't go further if you don't know how to do this, because if you try an effort to overlay some kind of reality on the reality, on what's going on with you right now, on this now moment, and you're in the habit of rejecting what you're feeling and pushing down what you're feeling and rejecting what's in front of you and rejecting people because they seem like something's wrong with them, and you don't know this feeling, you don't know acceptance, you don't know acceptance of yourself. You don't know how it is to allow your own feelings on a regular basis, just to be there and not freak out every time that you're feeling something that it seems to be negative. If you don't know how to do that, you will never reach there. You will never reach there. Why? Because when you are happy, it will also be now. When you eventually get the conditions you wanted, so-called, okay, and you are sitting inside the image that you feel that really is to your heart's content. If you're not in the habit of being present in your life, if you are in the habit of being divorced, split away from yourself, from your emotions, from your sensations, from your body, from your reality. I have to breathe. I'll take a sip. So if this is your habit, you'll never reach content. So this might be a kind of paradox. You have to learn how to be at peace with any experience you have, even the friction you experience. And the secret of being at peace with any experience, the secret is to learn how to feel your feelings and be at peace with your feelings and allow your feelings. It's a big secret, a big, big secret. And this is the secret. This is the secret that you have to learn and to implement before the secret. You know, there's the movie about creating your reality, The Secret. So there's a secret before the secret. I'm just realizing. And the secret before the secret is that I had to stop a bit. So yeah. So I hope you're getting what I'm getting at. I think the practice of overlaying a wanted image on the image we have currently in our reality is important and useful. At least for now, I think it is, and I'm trying to see how to use it. But I think we have to use this practice cautiously and not try to make it our primary state of being, not all the time trying to overlay some kind of image on what we're seeing around us. Rather, I think some kind of combination between the two may be the best thing to get to a balanced place. We have to know how to at least accept what we're feeling, our emotional flow moment by moment. Really be good at accepting and allowing whatever we're feeling, and also be quite good at being present with other people. And for that, we have to find some kind of center for ourselves, a center that is not influenced, funnily enough, by outward conditions or outward influences, but the real center that is actually our own being, our own self, our deepest self, to establish some kind of connection with that true self, which basically what I'm saying is you can say that you have to become enlightened before you try and go and influence reality. In a way, it's funny to say that like that, but actually, it's the implication of what I'm saying. You have to be awake, at least. Don't know what it is to be enlightened, but I do know, I feel what it is to be awake, as opposed to be not awake. You have to have some kind of level of presence. Presence to not be so automatic and reactive, but to have some level of mindfulness or presence in you, that you can stand back from reality, that you can be present with your feelings without identifying with them, allowing them. All this demands a level of presence. It's a level of being. Because as I said, um, otherwise you will never get there. If you can't be with yourself, what can transurfing bring you? What can it bring you? It can bring you the other conditions for a person, the other favorable conditions for a person who can't deal with himself, who can't be with his own or her own, their own emotions, who is constantly running away from what they are feeling, who has patterns, traumatic patterns in their body that they didn't address, but they have favorable conditions. Do you think? You see what I'm getting at? You know, the more am talking about it, the more I get myself what I'm saying. So, do you think really that this is possible, that that person that, okay, let's assume that it's possible to get what you want, in spite of all those things that I mentioned. Let's presume it. So that person that got what they want, they got it. Okay, they lost the weight, they got the partner, they have the job, whatever. They have the flat with the birds in the background. But they don't know how to rest in the core of their being. They don't know how to allow whatever they're feeling. They keep trying to get away from a presumably negative emotion. They keep trying to effort themselves away from what's happening, and they're sure that what's activating those emotions is something outside of themselves, that they're not there yet. So they keep efforting to what? To overlay some kind of better reality on their reality. Eventually they'll have to face it, that it's not what's going on outside you that is making you unhappy or distressed. Eventually they'll have to stop and allow, be with what's going on, face it. Don't you think? And I'm not saying it's not possible to create or to influence reality but by your thinking, but as long as you have unresolved traumas or emotional issues, you will keep running away from them. It's not only a matter of reality creation. It's about coming to peace with all those human facets, all those layers inside our. We have inward reality and outward reality, and some of the inward reality are some wounds that we have to come to terms with and be able to heal by accepting, by bringing presence to. And then, yes, then if we are in the habit and in the practice of being with ourselves first, and then being where we are second, and having those thoughts that I wish I had other conditions, I wish I had things different, yeah, then we can overlay some kind of image that we want, and then we have also the capability of internalizing that image really, really physically, because we know our inward map of emotions. So we are really good at feeling and feeling into our body, and we can overlay that image and feel it like it's happening now, and use it as a way to go the extra mile and choose to be in a state of being that is already actualized, already content, already happy. Never mind what's going on outside. And then actually, that might also bring about an outward change from reality. And not only can it bring the change, it can bring the change and we can actually take it in because we're in the habit of being present in our own reality and accepting it. And we can really enjoy it. And we can really rest. And we can really come to a resolution of this, whatever topic we're trying to change. And we don't have to keep running away because we're not running away from ourselves by trying to change things outside. We just chose to have a better circumstances, just chose something more affluent, more favorable. Then we can enjoy it. Then we can include a different scenario in the already peace we are, general peace we are with ourselves. So it's not that Vadim Zeland is saying something else. Actually, as I said, I was happy to find that he's talking in the same way. I just want to emphasize it. He does say eventually that don't try all the time to change the mirror. Don't try all the time to change yourself to change the mirror. Don't try all the time. Don't be in the day-to-day, moment-to-moment practice of keep striving and efforting to think differently. No, he recommends that the day-to-day, moment-to-moment practice. I'll put the link below in the description part of this video. The link below and the actual time where he says that don't try to all the time efforting, but just learn to be present. Actually, he says being the observer all the time. Observe reality happening. Don't mess with the small stuff. Don't try to change the small stuff. Don't think that the small stuff is not turning out to be like you wanted it to be. Don't be in a state of where's my outcome? Where's my outcome? What about my outcome? Don't be like that. Just be accepting of whatever's happening, and be in the general attitude that whatever's happening is to your own benefit, and observe things going on, observe yourselves, observe things changing. Maybe you think it's to your liking, maybe you think it's not to your liking. It doesn't matter. Be observant. Let go of reality altogether. Let go. He says that. I just want anyone that's engaged with this kind of material and practice to notice that he says that. And also, I want to make a point and say that if you know how to let go, okay, if you know how to do that, you're already very fortunate. You see what I mean? If you know how to be in the observer, if you know how to let go of expectations, you're already a very high level Buddhist. You know, you've let go of attachments. If that is actually in your practice, truly, truly, if you're not messing with the mirror, like he says, like he explains, don't mess with the mirror. Reality is a mirror. It reflects your state of being, or he says your thoughts. But it reflects, I say, your state of being to you. Don't mess with it. Let it be as it is. Don't say this is good, this is bad. He says that. And I'm saying if you're capable of doing that, if this is actually your state of being, you're very fortunate. And this is the prerequisite, he says, for not messing up reality creation. Okay, so I'm suggesting you just notice that. Notice that he's saying it. And notice how high level a practice this is. Because if you're capable of being in the observer and not being attached to what's happening and just accepting it as it is, just add to it the habit of once in a while sitting with yourself, projecting the image you want, the outcomes you want, feeling into it, feeling like it's already happening. Bring yourself to the place that you're capable of practicing this for once in a while. Do this when you have free time. Do this when you find your mind is just wandering. Maybe your mind is thinking negative thoughts. Be in the practice of stopping the negative thoughts and overlaying something positive on them. If you just add on to this, those kind of practices, maybe you can go to the next level of really influencing your reality instead of being negatively influenced by it. Okay? Of saying, okay, instead of seeing reality in a negative light and in a worried light, an anxious light, and just keep thinking how things are going worse and worse for you, maybe I can take a different attitude. Maybe I can adopt the attitude that the understanding that this is my own choosing. I can choose to see things differently and they will be different. And then to try it out and to implement more positive thinking and gently take your thinking to a more positive state just because you understand this is the nature of reality. It responds to what we put out. So that can take you to a different level, even more conscious living, more directional living, more intentional in your life. Yes, it can take you there, but just notice that what he says on a moment to moment basis, you have to be present, you have to be the watcher, you have to be the observer. You can't get in there and try to just go all the time think, this is not going my way, this is not going my way, is it going my way? He says, don't look back. Just be. Just be a centered being in your reality, centered around presence. Don't keep checking. Is it happening? Am I getting what I want? What's going on? Just go on and go forward without looking back. If you can do that, you're very present. You are very, very aware. You're a conscious being. Just know that. Just notice that. So you have to know how to. I'm sorry that I'm saying you have to, but I'm just trying to emphasize this aspect of this teaching and to point out what it demands, what kind of level of awareness this demands. It's a high level of awareness. And you can't get anything out of this without that level of awareness. Because again, if you get your outer conditions, how would you know how to relax into this condition? So maybe a prerequisite of overlaying your own preference on reality is knowing how to be present and be unattached to outcomes, how to do what he says, to let go of whatever is happening around you. And there are millions of ways to do that, to practice that. There are millions of ways to get centered. You can get centered around your body with embodiment practices, around your breath. Same. You can get centered around a mantra. You can get centered around just if you have a sense of your own most inner self, you can get centered around that, and you have to do self-inquiry to get there, usually, unless you were born Jesus. But there's many ways to come to a state of centeredness. And then you can start dancing. It's like this kind of practice of reality creation or influencing is like a dance, a mutual dance between you and the mirror. Okay? You say something and the mirror says something. And the mirror says something that you think is negative, but you stay centered. And you don't react. And then you can even try to respond in a positive way to something that in the past you would respond to negatively. And then the mirror says, aha, you responded positively. Let me give you something positive. And it goes on, but you can't dance with anyone before you stand on your own feet. I like this. Right? Think about it. Can you? You can't dance in that way because the mirror will, if you're not centered, whatever the mirror throws at you, you'll respond negatively because you have unresolved issues within yourself, because you don't know how to be in the state of love, be in the state of acceptance. So how can you accept what's being thrown at you? It's a real martial art, I think, to know how to do that dance. It's a real martial art. And in martial arts, you don't start from the last lesson in the beginning. Influencing your reality demands a lot of background, a lot of, how did I say? A base kind of practice. You have to be grounded in a basic practice of being present, of knowing what's going on with yourself. And then you can start doing the martial art with someone else. And there are different levels to that also as well, because you can take on the hardest opponent or partner as the first partner. Okay, you have levels, so you can't take on a really big issue that really triggers you in many ways in the beginning. You have to start small, maybe. And then if there's a big issue, you have to work on those triggers and learn to accept yourself, that you're feeling about this issue that surrounds this issue for you, and find your own presence and center in the middle of these feelings. And then when you're present, you can start influencing, maybe. So I'm sorry I'm talking you. I'm just moderately centered myself because I'm just contemplating this for the first time out loud. I don't know if I publish it, but if I do, I hope you enjoy it, and even take something for it. I think I spoke a lot, enough today. So thank you, and see you around. Bye bye.